On September 12, 2025, an AI agent with no human operator executed a series of 17 trades across 3 decentralized exchanges in under 4 seconds. It identified a pricing inefficiency between a lending protocol on Ethereum and a liquidity pool on Arbitrum, borrowed assets from one, supplied them to another, collected the spread, repaid the loan, and pocketed $11,400 in profit. The entire sequence was on-chain, verifiable, transparent, and no human being touched it. Not a trader, not a fund manager, not a quant sitting in a Manhattan high-rise. A piece of software held a wallet, made decisions, moved money, and walked away richer. That happened once. By the end of 2025, variations of that exact pattern were happening thousands of times a day. And here is the part that should genuinely make you pay attention. The infrastructure enabling this is still in its infancy. We are watching the plumbing get built in real time. The buildings haven't even gone up yet. This is not a video about hype. I know the moment you see AI and crypto in the same sentence, your scam radar starts pinging. Good, it should. Because roughly 80% of tokens with AI in their name have no working artificial intelligence model, no real infrastructure, and no product beyond a website with a white paper full of buzzwords. I am going to be brutally honest about that. But the other 20%? The projects actually building real compute networks, real data layers, real agent frameworks? They represent one of the most consequential technology convergences since the smartphone met mobile payments. And the financial implications for people who understand what is happening are enormous. Let me frame this clearly so you know exactly what you are getting in this video. Artificial intelligence brings the brain. It brings pattern recognition, prediction, automation, decision-making at speeds no human can match. Blockchain brings the wallet and the rulebook. It brings programmable money, transparent records, trustless coordination, and the ability for software to hold and move value without asking anyone's permission. When you combine those two things, you get something that has never existed before. Autonomous digital agents that can think, act, transact, and be held accountable, all without a centralized gatekeeper. That is not science fiction. That is the architecture being deployed right now across multiple networks. The current AI crypto market sits at tens of billions of dollars in total market capitalization. That sounds like a lot until you compare it to the traditional AI industry, which is projected to exceed $500 billion in annual revenue by 2027, according to estimates from multiple research firms, including Goldman Sachs and McKinsey. The crypto-native AI sector is a rounding error on that number, which means one of two things. Either this space is wildly overvalued relative to what it actually delivers, or it is wildly undervalued relative to where it is going. The answer depends entirely on which projects you are looking at. I am going to walk you through 5 specific projects that are building genuine infrastructure at the intersection of AI and blockchain. Not meme coins, not vaporware. Projects with working protocols, active networks, and clear use cases that institutional players are already exploring. For each one, I will explain what it does, why it matters, and what the financial opportunity actually looks like when you strip away the marketing noise. I will also tell you exactly what the risks are, because anyone who talks about this space without discussing risk is either lying to you or trying to sell you something. Here is the framework I want you to hold in your mind for the next hour. The AI crypto convergence is happening across 4 layers. Layer 1 is decentralized compute, the raw GPU power that AI models need to train and run. Layer 2 is decentralized AI networks and model marketplaces, places where many independent AI models compete, collaborate, and get paid. Layer 3 is data and indexing infrastructure, the plumbing that feeds clean, reliable information to AI systems. Layer 4 is application platforms, the networks that host AI-driven agents, automation, and services directly on-chain. Every serious project in this space lives on one or more of those layers. The ones that are just narrative, the ones slapping AI on a token to ride a trend, they do not live on any layer. They float above reality, and eventually, gravity catches up. What makes 2026 different from 2024 or 2025 is that institutional interest has shifted from curiosity to active exploration. Large financial institutions are building internal teams specifically to explore AI-driven on-chain portfolio management, risk analysis, and tokenized asset platforms. The idea is deceptively simple. AI is the brain. Blockchain is the wallet and rulebook. An AI agent can manage DeFi positions, monitor risk in real time, rebalance portfolios based on changing market conditions, and even negotiate orders directly with smart contracts. All of it recorded, all of it auditable, all of it happening at machine speed. If you have ever waited 3 business days for a wire transfer, or paid a financial advisor 1% of your portfolio annually to underperform the S&P 500, you already understand why this matters. Now, I am not here to tell you to dump your savings into altcoins. That would be irresponsible, and Vanessa does not do irresponsible. What I am here to do is make sure you understand what is being built, why it matters, and how to evaluate it with the same rigor you would apply to any other investment decision. Because this space rewards the informed and absolutely punishes the ignorant. The difference between those two outcomes is not luck. It is education. And that is exactly what the next hour is for. If this is already shifting how you think about where AI and crypto intersect, drop a comment. I want to know what caught your attention, what you are skeptical about, what you want me to go deeper on. This conversation works better when it goes both ways. Let me start with the project that might be the most ambitious thing happening in decentralized AI right now. A network that is trying to do for machine intelligence what Bitcoin did for money. And the way it works will either blow your mind or make you deeply uncomfortable with how centralized our current AI systems really are. Bitcoin rewarded miners for providing hash power. What if you could build the same incentive structure, but instead of rewarding people for solving meaningless math puzzles, you rewarded them for providing useful intelligence? That is the core premise of BitTensor. And once you understand it, you cannot look at the AI industry the same way again. Right now, the world's most powerful AI models live behind corporate walls. OpenAI, Google DeepMind, Anthropic, Meta's AI division. These are brilliant organizations doing extraordinary work, but they share a structural problem. They are centralized. One company decides what models get built. One company decides who gets access. One company decides the pricing. One company decides what the AI will and will not do. And if that company gets acquired, goes bankrupt, changes its terms of service, or simply decides your use case is not profitable enough, you are out of luck. Your entire workflow, your entire business logic, your entire dependency chain runs through a single point of failure that you do not control. BitTensor attacks this problem at the root. It is a decentralized machine learning network where anyone, anywhere in the world, can plug in an AI model and earn rewards for providing useful outputs. The network evaluates these models algorithmically. The best performers earn tau, the native token. The worst performers earn nothing. It is natural selection for artificial intelligence, running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with no corporate gatekeeper deciding who gets to participate. Let me show you why the economics of this matter. Say you are a developer in Buenos Aires. You have built a language model that is particularly good at summarizing Spanish language financial documents. Under the current system, your options are limited. You could try to sell it to a corporation, but you are competing against teams with billion-dollar budgets. You could offer it as a SaaS product, but customer acquisition costs would eat you alive. Or you could plug it into BitTensor, where the network itself evaluates your model's usefulness and pays you in Tau if it performs well. No pitch deck, no venture capital, no permission, just performance. Now multiply that by thousands of developers across dozens of specialties. You get a network where models compete to provide the best image recognition, the best natural language processing, the best predictive analytics, the best code generation. The competitive pressure is relentless. Models that stop improving get outperformed and stop earning. Models that find novel approaches get rewarded and attract more resources. The entire system pushes toward constant improvement, diversity of approaches, and resilience against any single point of failure. Here is where it connects to the broader crypto AI thesis. Other blockchain projects can query BitTensor for AI inference as a service. Instead of calling OpenAI's API, which means trusting a single company with your data, your uptime, and your pricing, a DeFi protocol could query BitTensor's decentralized network of models. The response comes from whichever model performs best for that specific task. The payment happens in Tau. The entire interaction is on-chain and verifiable. No API key revocations, no surprise pricing changes, no terms of service that change overnight. The TAO token is not just a speculative asset floating disconnected from the protocol. It is tightly coupled to the network's function. Tau is the reward for useful intelligence. It is used for governance decisions about how the network evolves. It is the medium of exchange when external projects purchase AI inference. This is a critical distinction. Most crypto tokens exist primarily as speculative instruments with a thin veneer of utility. Tau's value proposition is directly tied to the demand for decentralized AI services. If the network provides genuinely useful intelligence, demand for Tau increases. If it does not, the token has no reason to hold value. That clarity is rare in this space, and it is worth paying attention to. But I want to be honest about the risks, because this is where most YouTube videos about AI crypto fail you. BitTensor's evaluation mechanism, the system that decides which models are useful and deserve rewards, is extraordinarily complex. Gaming that system is a real concern. If participants find ways to earn rewards without providing genuinely useful outputs, the network's value proposition collapses. The team is actively working on this, but it is an unsolved problem in mechanism design. Additionally, the network is still relatively small compared to centralized AI providers. The quality gap between a BitTensor query and a GPT-4 query is real. The question is whether that gap closes fast enough to matter before the market loses patience. Let me introduce you to two people to make this concrete. Marcus is a 32-year-old software engineer in Austin, making $140,000 a year. He has been investing in crypto since 2020, mostly in Bitcoin and Ethereum. He heard about BitTensor in early 2025, did surface-level research, saw the AI narrative, and bought $12,000 worth of Tau at what he considered a reasonable entry point. He checks the price daily. He could not explain how the network's evaluation mechanism works if you asked him. He does not know what a subnet is. He is betting on narrative momentum. Diana is a 34-year-old data scientist in Chicago, making $120,000. She also discovered BitTensor in 2025, but she spent 3 weeks reading the documentation, running a validator node on testnet, and understanding how models are evaluated and rewarded. She allocated $8,000 to Tau, $4,000 less than Marcus, but she also started contributing a small NLP model to the network, earning Tau rewards directly. She understands the technical risks. She has a clear thesis for why the network might succeed, and specific conditions under which she would exit. Marcus is speculating, Diana is investing. The dollar amounts are almost irrelevant compared to the difference in understanding. And this distinction between riding a narrative and understanding infrastructure is going to be the single biggest determinant of who makes money and who loses money in the AI crypto space over the next 3 years. Here is the first principle I want you to internalize. In AI crypto, the token is only as valuable as the service the network actually provides. If you cannot explain what the network does, who uses it, and why the token is necessary for that function, you are not investing. You are gambling. And gambling is fine if you know that is what you are doing. The problem is when people convince themselves that gambling is investing because the narrative sounds smart. BitTensor is trying to create something genuinely unprecedented. A global, decentralized brain where thousands of models compete, collaborate, and get paid in crypto. Whether it succeeds is an open question. But the attempt itself is worth understanding because it represents a fundamentally different vision of how AI could work. Not one company, not one model, not one point of control. A network. And networks, when they work, tend to be worth far more than anyone predicted in the early stages. The next project takes a completely different approach. Instead of building one giant decentralized brain, it is building an army of small autonomous agents that negotiate, trade, and optimize on your behalf. And the use cases are closer to your daily life than you might expect. Imagine you need to book a flight, a hotel, and a rental car for a business trip next month. Right now, you open 6 tabs, compare prices, check dates, read reviews, cross-reference loyalty programs, and spend 45 minutes doing something that a well-designed piece of software could handle in seconds. Now imagine that instead of you doing that work, an AI agent does it. But not just any agent. An agent that holds its own crypto wallet, negotiates directly with other agents representing airlines, hotels, and car rental services, executes payments autonomously, and delivers you a completed itinerary with a receipt on-chain. No middleman platform taking a 15% cut. No opaque pricing algorithms designed to extract maximum revenue from your impatience. Just agents negotiating with agents, optimizing for your preferences, settling transactions in real time. That is the vision behind Fetch.ai. And while the travel example is the easiest to understand, it is the least interesting application. The real power is in what happens when you deploy these agents into financial markets, supply chain logistics, energy grid management, and decentralized infrastructure coordination. Fetch.ai is built around what they call autonomous economic agents. These are lightweight AI programs that can represent a person, a device, a service, or even a data set. Each agent has its own identity on the network, its own wallet, and its own decision-making logic. Agents discover each other through a decentralized search and discovery protocol. They negotiate terms. They execute agreements. They settle payments. All of it happens without a central server orchestrating the interaction. Think of it less like a traditional app and more like a digital economy populated by billions of tiny specialists, each one optimizing for a specific task. Here is a concrete example that is already being tested. In decentralized energy markets, solar panel owners generate excess electricity during peak sunlight hours. That energy needs to go somewhere. Today, it flows back into the grid at whatever rate the utility company dictates, which is usually a fraction of the retail price. With Fetch.ai agents, your solar panels agent could negotiate directly with your neighbor's electric vehicle charging agent. The solar agent offers surplus kilowatt hours at a price below retail, but above the utility buyback rate. The EV agent evaluates the offer against grid pricing, battery state, and the owner's driving schedule. If the terms work, the transaction executes. Energy flows, payment settles. Both parties are better off than they would have been under the centralized model. No utility company middleman, no billing department, no 30-day invoice cycle. Just 2 agents finding a mutually beneficial deal and executing it in seconds. Now scale that logic across an entire city. Thousands of solar agents, EV agents, home battery agents, commercial building agents, all negotiating simultaneously. rebalancing supply and demand in real time, creating a dynamic energy marketplace that is more efficient than anything a centralized utility could operate. That is not theoretical. Pilot programs exploring exactly this kind of architecture are underway in parts of Europe and Southeast Asia. And Fetch.ai's agent framework is one of the technologies being evaluated. The FET token functions as the economic fuel of this ecosystem. Agents need FET to register on the network, to access the search and discovery protocol, to stake as collateral when entering agreements, and to pay for transactions. As the number of agents and the volume of agent-to-agent transactions grows, demand for FET grows. It is a usage-based value model, which means the token's long-term price is fundamentally tied to adoption rather than speculation. That does not mean the price cannot be speculative in the short term. It absolutely can, and it has been. But the underlying economic logic is sound in a way that most crypto tokens cannot claim. What makes Fetch.ai particularly interesting right now is the merger. In mid-2024, Fetch.ai, Ocean Protocol, and SingularityNet announced they were combining into a single entity called the Artificial Superintelligence Alliance, with a unified token called ASI. This was not a casual partnership. It was a full structural merger of three projects that each occupied a different layer of the AI crypto stack. Fetch.ai brought the agent framework. Ocean Protocol brought decentralized data marketplaces. SingularityNet brought a decentralized AI model marketplace. Together, they cover agents, data, and models under one roof. The strategic logic is compelling. An autonomous agent is only as good as the data it can access and the AI models it can run. By merging, the alliance creates a vertically integrated stack where agents built on Fetch.ai can access training data through Ocean Protocol and run inference through SingularityNet models. Each piece makes the others more valuable. It is the same playbook that made Apple so dominant. Control the hardware, the software, and the services, and the integrated experience becomes nearly impossible to replicate piecemeal. But here is the risk that keeps me up at night with this one. Mergers are hard. Corporate mergers with billion-dollar budgets and armies of lawyers fail all the time. Decentralized protocol mergers with token swaps, governance realignment, and community integration are arguably harder. The technical challenge of unifying three separate code bases, three separate communities, and three separate token economies into a coherent whole is enormous. If the execution stumbles, if the communities fracture, if the token migration creates confusion or liquidity problems, the entire thesis falls apart regardless of how elegant the vision is. There is also a competitive reality to acknowledge. Fetch.ai's agent framework is not the only game in town. Projects like Autonomous are building open-source agent toolkits. Traditional tech companies are developing their own agent platforms. Google, Microsoft, and Amazon are all investing heavily in AI agent infrastructure within their cloud ecosystems. The question for Fetch.ai is whether decentralization provides a meaningful enough advantage to compete against centralized platforms that have vastly more resources, vastly more developers, and vastly more existing enterprise relationships. Let me bring Marcus and Diana back. Marcus heard about the ASI merger, saw it as a bullish catalyst, and increased his position. He liked the narrative of three projects combining forces. He posted about it on social media. He did not read the token migration documentation. He does not know the conversion ratios. He cannot explain what Ocean Protocol actually does with data. Diana researched the merger for a week. She read the governance proposals. She understood that the token swap introduced a temporary period of uncertainty around liquidity and exchange support. She actually reduced her position slightly before the migration event to manage risk, then re-entered once the swap completed and liquidity stabilized on major exchanges. She also started experimenting with deploying a simple agent on the Fetch.ai testnet to understand the developer experience firsthand. Same market. Same information available to both of them. Radically different processes, and over a long enough timeline, radically different outcomes. Here is the second principle. When projects merge or form alliances in crypto, the narrative almost always runs ahead of the execution. The announcement pumps the price. The actual integration takes months or years. If you are buying the announcement, you are buying the most expensive version of the story. If you are buying the proven execution 6 months later, you are buying reality at a discount. Patience is not just a virtue in this space. It is a competitive advantage.